Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Wednesday morning, where I am back to being the number one greatest dad. And before he moves out of Illinois, where like we were literally like an hour away from each other, all the way to Texas, last morning show for Gordo, the number two. What's happening?
What's going on? Yeah, because I'm not even going to be the number two dad because I'm abandoning my family to live in a studio apartment by myself for 4 months. I decided a Celsius is much better. I'm trying to embrace the dirtbag dad.
Yeah, so if you're in the Texas area, heads up because Gordo is headed your way. So get ready for that action. So you said Friday nights, you're getting the truck. Saturday morning, you're heading out there. Effective Sunday, he will be in your vicinity. So go say hi. We have actually a lot of people in Texas, like Alan and all those guys. And so where you going to Armadillo? Where like what city are you closest to? Like big city.
The biggest city is Lubbock, close to me. So Amarillo has an international airport.
Because I hadn't even heard of that one. So that's
Dallas,
I have
which is like 4.5. Dallas is 4.5 hours.
Okay, that's not too bad. And there he is, Mr. Camera. Finally getting the camera to work. Technical difficulties avoided. John is in the house. What's happening?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hear you.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. What did I miss? What did I miss?
Nothing
Not
really.
much.
I mean, really, what can you possibly miss? It's the Wednesday morning show.
Well, yeah, this is the Gordo farewell show for the time being. So I had to make sure I had to make it here. Right? I was like,
same thing. I was like, okay, I get because I know, but and I couldn't make it last week. He was like, "You gotta make it next week, though. It's the last one." I was like, "Okay, I gotta make it."
I'm going to the treatment room. That's why I put Tiago vibes up there. I'll collect. I'm going to collect the trophy at the end of the year. I'll be there, but I'm gonna be in the treatment room for the
here's the thing: do they not have internet where you're going? You should be able to jump on.
Right, like it's more of a loan than a permanent transfer.
Yeah, exactly. Right,
like,
loan, but I don't know if there's an option to buy. That's the only thing. I don't know if that's gonna be at the end. But obviously we have a game coming on later today, so we'll be here for the pre and post as well. I mean, right off the bat over here, like, how are you feeling about this, Gordo? Like, 11-point leads, game in hand. Mind you, the game in hands for them is against Chelsea. So it kind of like reminds me when our game in hand was like at Everton away. It's like a tough fixture at the end of the day. How are you feeling about today after Sunday?
I mean, good. I'm going to keep beating the drum. We're almost at the end of it, and obviously I won't be here, so no one's going to have to hear about this anymore. But for the last 2 weeks, I've been saying 5 games, 15 days. We get 11 points from it. Yeah. In my opinion, that's 2 nails in the title coffin, and we can take it home. I think that with 3 points here at home, we can look back at what potentially the media wanted us to fall apart. But by the end of it, I think we'll look back and go, you know what? That was a good point against Villa. That was a good point against Everton. Yeah. And it was a really hard-won, fought point against Wolves at a time when, in seasons past, injuries mounting, this could have been the biggest banana peel of all time. 15 days, 5 games, in always what's a tough time for Liverpool. This is what titles are made of. We can't win the title here, but we could have lost the title. And I'm feeling really confident because I think even a point here, it's still very.
What are we at? That we are at 8. Is that where we're at? 4, 8. Right? We're at 8 out of that 11. Because I remember talking about that, putting those 5 games up here and saying like, okay, what do we need out of this? And I think you look at. Let me throw this up here. Well, that's not it, but let me throw this up here. Okay. I mean, you look at the fixtures coming up over here. I think the fact that you have Southampton coming up next, which, nothing is won until you play it. But on paper, that's the game you should win and get 3 points from. I really do think, I mean, you look at those fixtures, there are some really tricky ones in there. But I don't know, John, it just feels like Sunday, more than Sunday, I think the whole weekend as a whole is where the title was kind of won.
Right.
But having said that, we're only up by 8 points. If you slip today and they pull a huge win for them, because I really think they're losing points today, because that's a really tough away game at Forest for them. But I mean, how confident are you in this title race over here?
The 7 out of 11 at Anfield really just makes me feel like it's done. And I mentioned it to Gordo last week or the week before that. That's massive. Like, obviously, you wouldn't want a majority of your games in the home stretch being away to certain teams. And listen, the hardest that we have there is probably in terms of the run-in where we could realistically still there's still some contention for the title. It's probably Chelsea away, and Chelsea aren't at the best place right now. I feel like we can exploit them, and Slot's win, the tactics that he pulled off against City just made me confident. It just gets the monkey off our backs, right? We haven't won in that venue for God knows how long, right, in the league, and just going in there doing it in the fashion that we did, it's just a statement of intent. It just puts the league on notice, like, yeah, we're freaking serious. We're going to win this. I'm with you there, Tim. I feel like if Arsenal drop points tonight and we win, it's done. Like, obviously, mathematically, it's not done, but it's already done, but it's more done than it's ever been done. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've been talking about this. I mean, yeah, until it's mathematically done, you're not gonna like pop the champagne or whatever. But I think it's more, Gordo, about, I mean, you talked about this before, is who's chasing us and what kind of a shape they're in. Not only who's chasing us, but like, the manner they're chasing us in. I think we were at the panel show yesterday. I can't remember who said it, but it's like, normally you look behind and it's like City coming with the Corvettes, and now they said you look behind and it's like Arsenal, like it's like a school bus behind
one of these. waiting for the Corvette to pick them up.
So I think that's like the biggest thing. If in their fixtures are just tough, and obviously they have all these like tough ones coming away, that like including today, so they are going to drop points. But I guess the only concern I have about today is the fact that how tough, I mean, Szoboszlai collapsing speaks, I think, everything, like how tough that game was, because we're not used to defending that much. Does that translate onto today? Mind you, they played the weekend as well.
I think the other thing you have to look at, and the one that worries me the most about that Southampton game, is the following games. Like we'll be looking at PSG. They're not the same team they have been. But that's not an easy fixture. You got to play them twice. There's also the small matter of a final, and you have to manage the squad. As you said, like Szoboszlai put in one of the greatest individual performances he's ever done in a red shirt, and obviously paid the price for it physically. I mean, that's the kind of stuff as a fan though that those are the, like, let's build him a statue tomorrow, right? Because that's what you love to see. Yeah. Everything. He gave everything and collapsed at the end of the field. That's what I want to see all of them do for the remainder of the games. Now, you can't do that because they won't make it to the end of the season if they're all doing that. So you've got to rotate. So today might be, because how far out are we from that PSG game? Is it 9 days? Is it 9-day rest?
Yeah. And that's the thing that makes it tricky, right? Like if you had another weekend game coming up, you would say, okay, there has to be some rotation. Mm-hmm. But does Slot say, suck it up, guys, after this, give one more performance like that, let's get the 3 points, and then we have so much time off to get everybody back.
We don't have a game this weekend. I was under the impression we did. Oh, well, that's big. That's big that our next game is like exactly next week in the Champions League.
But it's international break, though, too, so like these guys aren't getting a break, right? Isn't that this one, or is that at the end of?
It's the other one, I think, isn't it? Hold on.
Right, March 5 is next week, right? Jeez, it's March already.
It is March already. Yeah, when you're like a working man, time flies there, Charlie.
March already, jeez, man. But let me tell you, like, it's heading into March in this healthy of a position in the league, like in the football context. I don't want to talk about life because that's a different thing, right? In the football context, that's massive. Like 11 points clear, albeit with an extra game played. Like, geez, it's massive. I didn't know that there was no weekend game. I thought it was a Champions League. I thought we were going to be playing a game in between the Champions League ties. I think he can actually go all out later. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I think it makes it interesting, because normally if you had a weekend game, you would be like, hey, there's no way. You have to do some rotation. Then you have Champions League coming up. Now you can say, but that's risky, because you can say that, but then still have a muscle injury. Like up here, they might be like, yes, let's get this out of the way and, then we get some rest. But your muscles might be like, yeah, I'm not gonna make it till next week, man. And then like just pull or something like that. You don't want that either. I guess my question to you guys is, how much risk do you want to take?
Yeah, it's now we're at the point where like we want our cake and eat it too. We can't. But if you look at the fixtures, obviously Champions League game means more than this one. So if that's what you're really worried about, rest people today. If that's what you're really concerned about, I'd like to make it to the next round of the Champions League. You look at the Premier League fixtures, and we know as a fan base, we know all too well that no game is a guaranteed 3 points. But you look at the next 5, you look at everything in April, plus the one in March, and you could bury the league in this run. You've got 2 relegation battling teams. You got Fulham, who are so hot and cold. They're just inside the top half of the table. Everton at home, I think they showed us everything they had, and I think they're still beatable. Spurs at home, by that time, they're looking at other things. They're not even folks. They're wondering where they're going on vacation by the time we play them at the end of April.
Mm-hmm.
And you go on a run there of, that's what, 5-6 games there. You collect 12 points there. That's the league. You don't even, you can rest everyone out from here on out and focus on Champions League, in my opinion. So I think, like I said, if you are more concerned about Champions League and you're more concerned about, as Slot, if you're worried about fitness, I would rest people today. It's so close to being wrapped up. There's no point. You don't need 3 points today. It'd be really nice. It would definitely, further put dirt on the coffin. But, you could lose the title if 2 or 3 key players go down today.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? If you lose points today, first of all, are we kind of getting ahead of ourselves? Like, if we lose points today and then, Arsenal wins, you're back to like 6 points, 7 with the goal differential and stuff like that. So you kind of like bring him back into the conversation again, John. I think, the thing about Sunday was the fact that it was like a statement win. And then this one would just be like, yeah, this is how it's going to be. So even if Arsenal is over there getting a huge win, I do want them to turn around and be like, oh, you guys won too, huh? Like,
yeah, exactly.
And that's like really demoralizing when you feel. That's why this weekend was awesome, right? We got the huge win and they collapsed.
They lost, yeah. And I feel like getting the win here would be massive as well, considering after Forest, they go away to United, I believe, and they face Chelsea. So if we get a game tonight, we get our only Premier League game in March. Yeah, they'll have games in hand, but they're coming into those games in hand with massive pressure, knowing that we did our job on our end. So I feel like, yeah, the whole Champions League thing, I get it 100%. Like, I want to win that competition too, but then at the same time, any chance that we can get to like seal it, like further put more nails into the door, I take it. Which is why, if I was Slot, if obviously he's had some training sessions, he's seen how the players are. If they look satisfactory or above, put your best guys in for me.
Yeah, here's another thing. Like, up top, really, you played all your 4 midfielders. If you're able to bring Jota or Gakpo in today.
Oh, yeah, Jota didn't play.
Yeah, there's some rotation right there that you're like kind of like bringing some like fresh guys. I guess there's like the question marks would be, you have not really a lot of options, because if you put Kwanzaa out there, now you don't have any center backs on the bench. So it's not like you can start Kwanzaa for Trent. But on the left hand side, for example, do you push your like with Robertson, Gordo, or do you say, hey, we're gonna need them for the long run? Because like you're saying, if something happens where you push the issue and lose a couple of guys for like a month or something because of a hammy or something like that, you're giving, even if it's false hope, you're giving hope to Arsenal. I guess my thing is just killing their hope altogether.
Well, we have the luxury of being so far ahead that it might be a situation where we just see lots of rotation through the game. Every game is going to be 60 minutes, key players out, and it's not a case that like we don't have to pick up max points walking in. All we have to do is match Arsenal, and then we beat them by 11 points at the time the season ends. So we could see a situation where like he's got a good plan of rotation, and it seems too, from what I understand, that they've got a physio and a research analysis that, and I don't know his actual title, so I'm going to call him research analysis, but will tell you, like, or is telling Slot, like, all right, this guy can go hard in training, this guy isn't. So, like, they're individualizing training sessions. So maybe Soboslai, maybe you're doing light running, you're going to stretch with everybody, you'll do some passing drills.
He's watching Netflix.
Yeah. when we do our, like, 5-a-side or whatever, you're just going to be doing some, like, lactic acid stuff. So, like, it seems like that's going to help immensely as we get into the final stretch of the season.
Let me put this up here, actually, because we were actually this was part of the trivia on Monday, but if you look at it, right? We are more the paranoia that we have. Let me zoom this in over here so we can see. These are like today's top 4.
Can you just scroll up and look at Cole Palmer's face for a second?
That's so wrong.
Bro, he's like me after a long day, man. Like,
and I thought he was gonna show like something up top. I'm like, did I miss a stat on top of the screen or something?
Like, bro's contemplating life. I swear, he's like.
If you look at it, John, we've been like really paranoid, and it's a lot of PTSD, I think, from like, the seasons past. But so far, it has been a pretty comfortable run. 144 days of it being spent on top. I find it really ironic, actually. That's why I thought the trivia was good, that Arsenal has not been on top the entire freaking season.
It's really fun. It's really funny, and you hear some of their fans talk. It's like they've been 144 days up top there. I swear. And you mentioned the whole paranoia thing. Like, we've been top 144 days in the top 4, almost 200 days, and our faces are still like Cole Palmer up there. Like, in terms of our chances winning the league, like, we're still scared. We're still like Cersei. So, like, the trauma is just it's just built in.
Okay, there's something about him. I really like Cole Palmer because, like, he dove full into like maybe there's a chromosome issue somewhere in there. Like, he's like, let's get the ball cut. Like, let's just go full into it. If everyone thinks it, I might as well just go for it. I love this.
I saw something the other day, like he said he'll be back or something like that. I don't know if that's like an exact quote or what, but I thought when I saw the quote, I thought he was injured and out for like the rest of the year or something like that. But it was more like he was talking about his form. Speaking of form, Ramadan in March. So Mo and Konate, are they the only two? They are probably the only two, right? I don't know. At this stage, wouldn't you think Mo is used to? Konate is younger, but for Mo, you would think he's almost used to. Like, it's like fasting is difficult, right? And if you've ever done it through Ramadan, like, mind you, I have never ever done it full Ramadan, but back in the day when I did do it. The first, like, I did it, I think, like 3 days in a row at one point. That's my record. And then I was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't be so religious. But anyway, so like the first day, like, it gets easier as you go. And I would think for a player like Mo, who's been around the block, I would think, Gordo, that he's almost like he knows how to do it while he's doing his thing, especially somebody like him.
Yeah, and now he's got, he can probably do it personally by himself, but he's also got like top physios also assisting him through the whole thing, and then somebody that takes care of his body that well, your body could definitely start eating its own muscles. I think he'd be fine. He'd still have a 10-pack if, during Ramadan, his body consumes 2 of his abdominal muscles. I think it'd be fine.
Good news is as well, we only, sorry, Gordo. Good news as well, we only got 1 league game throughout March. Mm-hmm. That's just the Southampton one, which I think if we can't win it without Mo, then what are we, right? We should be Mo Salah FC in that case.
See, don't say stuff like that. Don't say stuff like that. Let's not put that out in the universe, because that's the thing. Like West Ham, for example, when you look at this weekend, like when you look at this week, I guess I was more about we get a draw against City, worst case scenario, and then hope you have to beat Newcastle at home because they're not going to lose points against West Ham, but they might lose it against Forest. That's how I was thinking. And then it's almost like no 3 points are guaranteed. Southampton is probably the closest thing to guaranteed, having seen them yesterday too. That's quite the shit show going on over there. But I don't know. I don't want to mark anything as a guaranteed 3. And you will, I mean, I guess we will have the 2 Champions League games are in March, right? So you have those 2.
Yeah.
And the final is in March, isn't it?
Yes.
So there's some like big games still.
I have to take off
but
on
it's
that
a
Monday.
final. I feel like
I have to take off on that Monday.
There's like you can get away with not being at your best for a final like mentally. You just get yourself up. The adrenaline starts kicking in, and you can work through the jitters or whatever you're feeling. But Ramadan is very difficult. Only one time, and it was one day. We went golfing in college, and we spent all day. It takes fucking forever, and there's like 6 or 7 of us, so there's like 3 groups, and at the end of it, we went out to eat, and one of our friends, Ahmad, was in Ramadan, and everyone's like, "Oh, we can wait for him until the sun goes down." I'm like, "Are you kidding? We gotta wait for him?" And I was like, starving, and we're just sitting there, and like everyone's got waters, and I'm like, "I've been outside all day. Look at me. I can't do this. I've never missed a meal. I've never missed a snack time." And here I am, and all I had to do was like wait a couple hours. So it's difficult, I will say.
Dude, you know what? I talked about this before. The most difficult thing about Ramadan and fasting is setting up the table or help set up the table for like basically like breaking fast. I think is like the term for it. But yeah, I mean that's pure torture, dude. Like like you're already freaking starving. I mean, honestly, like the hardest part is not food; it's more the water. Like not being able to drink all day and stuff like that. But psychologically, the hardest part is setting that freaking table and taking everything over there. Like you're like, I remember like being a teenager and you're taking that stuff over there. You're like, okay, this has to be the ultimate torture over here because I have not eaten because I was too lazy to wake up. A lot of people do wake up in like what is it like dusk basically like 3-4 o'clock and almost like stock up and eat and stuff. I was too lazy to do that, so I was basically you have not eaten in 24 hours. The last time you ate was like the dinner the day before kind of a deal. But I was gonna highlight something like that. Yeah, by the way, there's somebody in the background breaking into a car, John.
Right, that's why I was like, what the hell is going on out there? Like I don't part of New York. What is going on? It's been relatively safe here. Knock on wood.
Wade says we still have ways to go if you want to achieve big trophies. Yes, that's interesting. It is positive. I mean, it's positive in the sense that it pretty much signals that he's going to be gone. But I mean, I basically said it over here, and I was like, I said the same thing that he's not even doing the off the ball stuff anymore. And for both games, and I got criticized for like being like a Darwin hater, which like if that's the only thing you bring to the table is your energy and defending. Yeah, I don't want to be. I mean, we have Gordo here, so people.
I've been receiving that
Darwin hater. He was offended more than I was offended, probably, but because we're at different levels. Yeah, what do you guys make of that? I was still saying when I was criticizing him, and he was going around like a lost puppy, not even like running, defending, and stuff. Those games that. He probably still has a couple of moments this season where we're like, he gets a goal, he pops in and stuff like that. Like, well, the season is coming to an end. I was thinking like a 2-3. Let's go with 1-2 big moments for him. Does that like slot pretty much throwing him under the bus, saying like, does that mean he's not going to be seen much? Or does that mean like he knows he's going to have to throw him out there and basically that's his incentive to show that the work rate is at least he's going to get the work rate now because he kind of singled them out.
I mean, should I answer that? Because I hope I personally, right? Like objectively, I feel like he's still going to be getting a chance. I feel like because listen, he's still as bad as his negative traits are. The positive traits I feel in terms of his physical profile, how fast he is, it's still an appealing option, especially if you're chasing a game or if you're camping back in and you need an outlet for a long ball, right? But then at the same time, we haven't even seen those, right? We haven't even seen him like do a heavy sprint, chase a ball.
Gordo's over there like practicing.
Right, like Gordo's ready to go.
He's
in.
warming up back there. Like I can already see him. Like
right. But let me just finish what I have to say before Gordo can get his piece in. I think it's time. I think it's just give his minutes to Chiesa, give it to Jota. Hell, even give it to Diaz as the 9. I think it's done, and I'll just stop there. I think it's done. I don't think we see it.
You're all warmed up.
Yeah.
Hits Nunez out of the park.
I think so. And I know where you stand on it because we've done so many Wednesday shows. But it sounds, and a lot of people sound like just an addicted gambler, right? It's just like maybe this time,
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to be objective before someone gets on my ass. Like before someone says, "Oh, you hate the man." Like he's still a human being. Like I get it. Like I feel bad for Darwin, but then at the same time, I felt bad on how we looked at when we couldn't retain the ball against Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I mean, if I was in the squad, John would be like, "Tim should get some minutes. Give him a chance up."
I have the Klopp in me, man. It's the sentimentality. It's the human thing.
I told John last week that like where I am now is like in that part of the relationship where you've even stopped fighting because you don't care anymore.
The worst part.
Just
the
whatever.
worst part.
You want to scream at me? I'll just walk out of the room. That's where I'm at with Darwin. I don't even view him as a player anymore.
We're gonna miss your relationship analogies on Wednesday mornings, that's for sure. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I say, he's an easy guy to root for because of his efforts. And when that went away the last couple of weeks over here, it's like, what are you doing? And I know I don't think it has anything to do with not getting the move in January and stuff like that. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I just feel like he's like a confused, lost dude that realizes this is not happening. And I think it's almost like the realization that the end is near. The end is near, like shaking the bell over there for like Slot.
I think like the timing of this speaks volumes and what he said. Slot has not thrown anybody under the bus all season long.
Yeah.
He's been very even when like he took Kwanzaa off in the very first game halfway. It wasn't so much about Kwanzaa. It was like there was metrics behind my decision. Okay, yes. He didn't win an aerial duel, and we ended up winning the game. So look, brilliant. What I think we're sitting here on the precipice of March, and he calls out Darwin when everyone has sort of seen this season he's just not been firing. Even like you had said, the way that he was last year, where at least he was providing chances, he was getting in the mix of things on a regular basis. It wasn't always working out for him. Now we're seeing like even sparsity in those actions. Where yes, every once in a while he pops up and he pulls a defender out and gives Mo space, or he assists or even finishes a goal in big moments. We're not seeing that on a consistent basis. I think the timing of being so close to March, that to me shows that Slot has done everything else to try and get this guy out. And he's like, maybe if I say something in front of everyone, and it's sort of a call to arms, because I said it last night at the Discord, the last manager to do this was Almiron for Rashford.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, Rashford was gone to Villa. So instead of, and Kelly and I talked about it on the Drink Inside the Box podcast, I felt that like, if you want to be here, there's the way that he did it and the way that Slot did it, same thing. The door is open. You have to walk through it. Yeah. I'm going to give you every opportunity, but I need you to show me that you want to be here. And Rashford, instead of going like, I can do this, he just went, yeah, I'm out. He didn't want to take on the challenge. And so as a fan, if Nunez steps through that door, if Darwin takes this opportunity and goes, you know what, screw you, I'm going to prove you wrong, I'm going to prove everybody wrong, I'm going to step through the door, as a fan, I want him out there. I want him in the starting lineup. I want him on the bench. I want him coming out in the 60 minutes. If you take that call to arms and you succeed, you belong here. But this is now, it's finally after I think he's lost most of his supporters. I think he's survived mostly. I think the fact that Jurgen and Slot switched, we lost our manager. I think that saved him over the summer. Give him another chance. Somebody else coming in. He's out of options. Now it's up to him. If he comes through, I want him on the team. If he doesn't, goodbye.
I feel like, to add to what Gordo was saying as well, Slot has less incentive to stick with Darwin like Klopp did, because Klopp wanted Nunez after we lost Mane. So he had to put himself out there. Okay, this is my guy, and we spent a big amount of money on him. So whatever happens, I still have to ride him no matter what happens. Nunez has no connection to Arnie whatsoever. So if he is not satisfied with his performances, you're going to be in the dumpster. You're going to be in the basement, whatever metaphor. You're going to stay there unless you improve. So
I am not buying this. Where did that comment? Chris, by the way, long time no see, man. Darwin's girlfriend is pregnant. The stress of becoming a father at that age can be overwhelming. I feel like that could have an effect on his mind. I mean, he's 25, first of all. It's not like he's like a teenager still like graduating. I'm not buying any of the excuses. Honestly, I'm done making excuses for this guy because we made every excuse under the sun, and it's just not there. It is not. And I really think this look like, yeah, we were like, okay, he's getting used to it. He doesn't know the language, blah, blah, blah. So we gave all those excuses there. And then it was confidence. Oh, he just needs to see a couple go in, blah, blah, blah. Well, that didn't work. He would score 2 and then we'll be shit for another 3 weeks, blah, blah, blah. So all these, and then we were like, okay, it's the second season. He's going to settle in now. And then we said with Slot, I really think we didn't know enough about Slot, to be fair, at that time. We said, hey, different manager. We were like, oh, look what he did with Jimenez over there. You know, he's like the forward, the whisperer, blah, blah, blah. You'll make Nunez. I think because we all wanted the guy to succeed because he does put in the effort. Like I say, he has been, minus these last 2 weeks, a very easy guy to root for. But I think now, I realize that Slot is actually worse for him. Because his biggest weakness, which is not really understanding tactics, positioning, and things like that, is becoming even more highlighted. Because now we have a manager constantly changing tactics and stuff. If he was going to survive, it was going to be under Klopp, where it was like, you run at the ball like there's no tomorrow. We press. You know what I mean? Like, it was a bit easier, attacking-wise. It was a bit easier. Now, like, there was no way in hell Nunez was going to play on Sunday, and we were able to keep any sort of shape defending. So, like, he doesn't. So, as you know, Slot changes the games. By the time, it's going to be after the game, they're in the locker room talking, and Nunez is like, "We switched to 3 up top. I didn't even know that." That's what I get the impression I get off of him in terms of his playing.
It's the Airbud position. Klopp had Airbud, where like there's a dog out there. He doesn't know what he's doing, but he's really good at running, and he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. Whereas like Slot's like, I don't have a position in my team for Airbud.
And
Sorry.
No, I don't want to keep burying the guy as well. And I know we don't want to do this because apparently we shouldn't be judging, players based on how much money we spent on them. But you can't help but do so, right? Yeah. We got this guy for, I forget the fee, but it was a massive amount, right? And I don't want to say the fee because people can get on a video and say like, this guy's misquoting the fee, doesn't know what he's talking about. But it was a lot of money, right? And we can't spend that amount of money on a wild card.
Yeah.
3 seasons in, no thank you, sir.
Yeah, this is not like City's, allegation-full operation going over here. You can afford to have that. I mean, I don't think there's an issue with Slot. The issue is with Nunez. I mean, Slot basically answered the question honestly, and like he's done that before. I think, you're not gonna. Nunez probably doesn't like the answer, but I don't know if he can deny it. And I would think if Slot has said it over there, from what all the players say about Slot, if he's saying it in the press conference, he has already said it to Nunez as well and said, so are we going to run or what? Man, I learned so much at the show over here. Good morning, boys. I'm in the rain, grinding stumps like a stripper on
grinding stumps. That's fun. I like grinding stumps.
Yeah, you guys actually should get together. A lot to talk about with trees and all that kind of stuff. Our resident arbor expert going over here, going to Texas to show him what a tree looks like. It's an excuse perspective. Yeah, he makes way too much to not be professional. I honestly think, isn't McAllister the same age?
Around, yeah. He's around his close to his prime. I would say.
McAllister is 26 years old.
Right.
And I know, Chris knows too, like, maturity is not an age. It's basically, and honestly, I would think a guy like Nunez, having been through what he's been through to get to where he's at, he would actually be a bit more mature because you've you suffered and come across a lot more. Because I really think, Gordo, can't go to John here. He's way too young. But now, he's getting there slowly but surely. But, that's what makes you mature. You kind of like go against some things. I think people who mature earlier maybe face some stuff a lot earlier, like teens, late teens, even like, during college or whatever. Like the more adversity you face, I think the more mature it makes you become, as opposed to just like cruising through things. And you would think a guy like Nunez, who's gone through all these things as he's like moved up and it's like well documented, would be a lot more mature for his age compared to another, 25-year-old. Like
definitely, yeah. I mean, when you've had to, I always think about this story like with Mane, where he's got to like travel an extreme distance to get to practices, and he was doing that daily after school, and it's just like he's doing that on his own, and that's how you mature, is that you get put in these situations where you're all by yourself, and you've got to figure out, A, is it worth it, and B, can I persevere? And obviously Darwin made it to the Premier League on a team that's currently going for every season that he's been on there, apart from that first one, is going for a title. You'd think that he would have the tools in his toolkit and the experiences to be a little bit more mature. And I find it hard to believe, like, I think one of the most or the biggest maturity times, because you kill it at your old club, you come out, you get a big money move over to a very good team. And yeah, that probably goes to your head at 22. What was he, 22 and a half, 23 years old? And so that probably goes to your head. So you're the first season, like we said, you're not good with the language. You're probably a little overconfident. You get woken up to the Premier League. It's a difficult place to play, especially for, against Premier League defenders. It's probably not like anything he's ever faced in his life. But last season, when he deleted all of the Liverpool photos off his Instagram, that was a maturity moment. That was something where you wake up, and I do not believe when you watch this team with all those like behind the scenes YouTube clips and stuff like that nobody put their arm around him. Mm-hmm. Like Verge didn't come and maybe hang out with him for a day at his own house, or invited him over and his family over, and nobody put their arm around him and been like, I've been there, it sucks, and you can do XYZ, and then all of a sudden the photos are back up on his Instagram. That was the moment where you should start becoming mature. Now it looks like he's reverted. He's like going further that way, because everyone's allowed to, be at their lowest and feel like absolute crap. But I find it very hard to believe that nobody on this team put their arm around him and he didn't find some solace in the team and somebody didn't give him some good advice and, he can move on from that. So I don't know. I struggle to like continue with the immaturity as the seasons go on.
I rarely like kick people out of the chats and ban them and stuff like that, and it's usually for like swearing or like being abusive and stuff like that. But Nika, man, you're getting mighty close to that, because that's almost like, because almost worse. I would say worse than baseball, and that's saying a lot coming from me, because now you're taking the helmets off and having tea and all that kind of stuff. Chris says, and I do agree with him, I think the price tag brought the pressure. And this is probably the first time, maybe, at least on the pitch, that he was challenged. Like, we talked about, life can challenge you. Like his brother took one for the team, so he can be the player and stuff like that for Nunez. But on the pitch, this might literally be the first time that he got challenged. Because in the past he could kind of like cruise through everything with the speed, physicality, finish, full of confidence and stuff like that. Then he comes to Liverpool and it's not. They're like, wait, this is not that easy because I've been cruising. So maybe this is the moment for him. And I really do think he takes another step, whether it's like Serie A, and if he went to Saudi Arabia, he would kill it, I think. But I think like in another league, in another situation, he does do well. He's just not built for this. And I think the price tag that, Chris is talking about, and coming the same time as Haaland's, has been like probably put additional pressure on him, John. And like he was just not ready for it. I don't know if he was ready for the Premier League if he came in on a 15 million contract. So like Chris is saying, you put that price tag and you put the same guy that came along with him in Haaland and what he's doing. Mm-hmm. I just think it was maybe too much for him to deal with.
Yeah, it's like we paid for the player that we think he would become rather than the player that he was at the time, which was, extremely raw. But we knew the talent was there. And to be fair, I believe all the reports mentioned it was a Klopp signing. And as much as we love Klopp, I guess in hindsight, it's one of his very few mistakes, right? For committing too early to a prospect that's too raw. And listen, there's no use crying over spilled milk right now. Like Sir Z said as well, we're still basically on the verge of winning the league in a good standing. I agree with him actually that part of the whole thing was a call to arms to kind of get Darwin psyched up. But yeah, I guess one of the rare negatives in a season that's full of positives, right? And
yeah, that's a good point.
Right, that's one of the rare negatives. And I wouldn't be surprised, right? I'll put this out there just to go against the grain. If the 2 to 3 goals that you mentioned becomes 3 to 4 or 4 to 5, right? Just to give our boy one last.
There's not that many games, bro. There's like 8 games left in the league.
Yeah, but then there's not many games. But like I mentioned a while ago, I feel like his profile is still too enticing to ignore. Like the idea of what Nunez can give you is still too appealing.
Sounds like a gambler.
Right, I know. I'm just going against the grain.
I know what I'm doing.
If we could just put the mortgage of the house down, I know he'll come good for us. I know it.
But at the same time, Gordo, I mean, you do once. I mean, I do think like Slot didn't say that, saying you saw the last of him. I think that was more. Next time he comes in, we're gonna see more the old Nunez, even if he's not, he's gonna put the effort. But in some ways, Gordo, you do want him out there doing a little thing here and there, and maybe 3-4 games, because you will move on from him in the summer. And if you're gonna move on from a guy, you're gonna get more for him if he's like still popping in and scoring goals as opposed to like
there we go, right?
And trying to find a silver lining here. Maybe at the craps table, like we'll do better.
I'm not good. Okay, fine. I'm not good at blackjack. What about Texas Hold'em? All right. But Trevor says something in the chat, and I said this last week on the Wednesday show when it was just John and I. It's like, I didn't like him, but nobody would be quicker to be like, my bad. I screwed up. If he had a 25-goal season this year, I want him to succeed, right? Like, everybody wants it. I would love him to be a 25-goal a season character. But it's not happening. And, like, it's not that I don't want him to succeed. I don't think anybody doesn't want him to succeed because he's part of the team. And so everybody there needs to be useful. But he's the only player that I feel like everyone defends by calling somebody else out. You call anybody else out on the team, and it's like, yeah, that was a bad performance, rough one.
Yeah.
You call Darwin out, and everyone's like, yeah, well, Diaz also did that twice. Jota did that twice, and I don't understand why there's such an affiliation like that with him. And I guess, like you said, maybe he's just like somebody that everyone has wanted to be the guy, because I think that's what we were like made to believe. And so it becomes like a personal thing. Like, I made this call and I want to stand by it. And like, I don't want to say embarrassed because I don't think anyone's embarrassed about it, but there's like it's a personal maybe issue with it. But yeah, I mean, like John said, if he goes out, like, and we're going to need everybody. He's here until June, July. I would love him to get 10 goals, or 10 goal involvements, 5 goals, 5 assists. Yeah. We're going to need everybody. We're coming over the finish line. We're going to have, the longer the season goes on, the bigger the target on our back gets, the more challenging the Champions League games get. We're going to need him to step up. And so I really hope that he takes what Slot said and becomes the player that we wish he all was. Yeah. And for nothing else, if Slot brings him in and goes, look, you are not my plans. But guess what? Everyone here thinks that you're a big dud. Let's prove them wrong, and let's make them give you a standing ovation at home against Crystal Palace on the last day, instead of just being like, thank God he's leaving. Let's make it a positive goodbye instead of a negative goodbye.
And honestly, like, he can never complain about, I know, like, he removed, and, social media fans are different, I guess, but, he can never complain about the, like, Anfield not being behind him, even when he goes away. Like, the fans, he's an easy guy to root for, and they almost treat him like a little toddler that they don't want, like, they want to keep his morale up. It feels like a U5 game when the fans chant his name. So I'm like, you're like, you ran, it's like, so, I mean, he's always had the support, and because of the effort, he's always been like an easy guy to root for. But I mean, going back to what, Trevor is saying, the whole toxic fandom thing, I just love that aspect when I feel like, if you're calling out something that you see, that's not toxic fan. Toxic fandom to me is when you're selling everybody when we draw a game or lose a game. Next week they're the best guy. That's toxic to me. If you're especially consistent or calling it, even if it's Van Dijk, I don't care who it is. Like, they had a bad game today. They screwed this up today. They're human. If you're just pointing that out, but that's what happens. People say, and going back to what you're saying, Gordo, like, I know we all have our specific targets. Maybe we analyze them a bit more or a bit more harsh on them. Everybody harps on me because, like, I look at Trent's defending, supposedly pushes people out. But
can I just say on Monday, right? I wasn't feeling the best. I called out of work and I was like, oh, the show is on. Let me just come in, see what's happening. The moment I come in, Tim is just going, I would just like him to track back. I immediately knew. Immediately knew the context of the conversation.
That's funny.
I was like, it's the moment I came in. I was like,
dude, I was livid. Just ask Angie. And then the worst thing is, like, Angie tried to like make a defense for him, and I was like, "You're gonna be kidding me!" And then like I kind of like was like spilled my guts and said everything. And then the next, like, on Monday, this was Sunday when we watched the second half together with Angie, and I was telling her like how the game went, and as we were like talking about it, because she missed the first half, which I thought it was a lot worse in the first half.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't see the worst of it. And then she tries to say that he's like, well, he's pushing him outside, blah, blah. And I was like, that's not pushing him outside. It's just like losing it. And then the next morning, we're like getting ready for the show. Like, I'm getting everything ready. Mateusz pops up. He was like, you could say, though, he was pushing him outside. I'm like, oh, don't freaking get. And it was like right before we were going live. I'm like, don't get me started. It's like, yeah, he asked for that one.
Postal.
I knew he wasn't what we wanted after the first season. I still show support wishing him. Yeah, I mean, obviously, right? He's a Liverpool player. Doesn't matter who it is. I root for Costas. I don't think he's ever going to be our starting left back. But when he's out there, I root for him. I don't like that's, I think, toxic fandom is when you're almost rooting against him so you can say, I told you so. I think that's when it becomes like toxic. Otherwise, we want him to succeed. What do we care? But yeah, and then, don't get me started on like the toxic fans. Go ahead, Gordy. You're about to say something.
No, I was just going to comment that at least with Costas, his Scouse accent is a lot better than Anon's.
That's a low bar, to be fair. But Origi, yeah, I don't know. I always felt like, Divock was never like Divock. You could make a case and say, right, hey, he doesn't
Divock
get a run of games or something at least.
Divock had a role, and he did that role to perfection.
Yeah,
right, which is to come off the bench and score clutch goals. Like, Nunez was brought in to be a starting striker. He failed, unfortunately, right? So
Origi is always one of those ones too that like a lot of the fans split on him. Like, obviously they love his moments, and he was another player that just had moments. It wasn't like he wasn't the most reliable person, but he had some massive, season-changing goals. But I think the one that confuses people when you look at how long he was with us, because some people will say like, well, his heart was never in it because he was never going to get a starting role. You don't stay at a team for as long as Origi did without knowing that you are the bench guy. Like, you're always going to be number two. Like, he embraced that role. The only other player that I can think of in modern times, because there's not a whole lot, and I don't know whether it's just like this generation players or social media where everyone feels like super important and like they have to be, the main character or everything. But the last player that I feel, besides like James Milner, but he's just ultra professional, was like Yassi Benayoun, where it's just like, yeah, like I want to be the guy coming off the bench. Like, that's I would rather be the guy coming off the bench and making an impact in, the 75th minute than to start the game. And I really feel like Origi embraced that, because I don't see how a player can stay out of club without demanding moves, because he was never in the media for demanding moves or asking to play or anything like that. Like, he liked being the super sub.
Yeah, he likes sitting on the side, thinking, what am I going to wear tonight? It's just like, and then you're like, oh, you guys need me in? Sure, why not? But I mean, here's the thing that goes back to, I can't remember who was Wade saying it or Chris in the comments, but I mean, he came over for 12 million. And I think there is less pressure. Whereas when you come for the money that Nunez did, even if you're personally okay with the role, that's not the optics of it. Nobody thought, oh, here comes Divock, he's going to be our number 9 kind of a thing. Like he played wing a lot more than he played in the middle. So I think it's a little bit of the expectations, but it goes back to the player too, like you're saying, Gordo. He was very okay with that role because he was like, I'm here along for the ride. Call me if you need me.
Yep.
I'm going home. It's not the guy like that doesn't stay late after work, but he's like, but if you guys need me, call me. I'll be at home kind of thing. He's just like,
he's the co-pilot, right? He's in it for the all the stewardesses, and then like when the actual pilot's like, hey, I need to take a nap, he's like, all right, I got this.
All right, I got this. Then he just puts it on autopilot.
Yeah, exactly. He waits till the pilot's snoring, and then he puts it on autopilot.
Woo, feeling quite the shift. So 2:15 will probably be on around like 1:45 Central Time over here. So we're gonna find out what the lineup is in less than 3 hours. It feels like. But what do you expect, real quick? Give me a lineup, Gordo, and give me a prediction.
Oh, lineup, man. This one really, I'd want to see his most strongest 11. Similar, maybe not exactly, but similar to the City one, and just go for it and give the guys a rest, and then maybe they get injured before, so they can get a nice break or whatever. They can go on do in the 9 days between now and PSG. But I think for scoreline, I think we play Newcastle off the pitch. I really do. I think we're at home. I think the fans are feeling it. Like this is going to be, obviously Anand is like 6 or 7 fans combined with his positivity. So that's an extra couple of guys out there. And
the ultimate irony today would be is Szoboszlai is rested.
Right. I would message it on personally.
Szoboszlai is not playing. Like,
no,
just get some rest.
That's how Anand has been arrested for stalking, because he's like, we got to put Szoboszlai. He's like, when do you leave? All right, we're gonna put Szoboszlai in witness protection program until this guy gets out of the country. There's a guy, he's hounding me. The
thing with Newcastle is they press like hell, so it's almost, I feel like you need your starting 11, because especially in the beginning they go like crazy and press like hell.
Would they though, away from home, right?
I think they only know one way is the way I look at it, but.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, yeah, there are ads on the lives now. It's kind of like trying to figure out how the heck that works. So you guys let me know.
We don't see them.
Nobody loves ads, but how intrusive it is, I guess I would like to know, because YouTube does that themselves so that they can
just right
make themselves money more than make us money. That's for sure. Yeah. It's, how bad is it? I guess is what I want to know. But they don't. Yes. No. There's no. You don't even know. There are people in China. It's like little kids in a Nike factory right now making more. John.
Yeah.
Lineup or
sort of with Gordo as well. Like I hope he does a full strength, but I feel like we could see 1 or 2 changes in. Although with the midfield, I don't know if you could change much unless you're willing to put out Endo there. On a game where if Newcastle would press, I don't think Endo's a decent.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think Endo's a good option. So as much as I would like Szoboszlai to not play or to come off the bench, I see him playing. I don't think Elliott has impressed Slot enough to earn a start for such a massive game. But the good news is, and Serzi as well mentioned it, the crowd will have a massive impact. Those players who aren't feeling 100% energy-wise, they're going to start feeling it once the final once the whistle blows. So I'm saying close to the same lineup to City, with the exception of maybe Jota starting. I don't see. I would put Darwin starting there, but I don't see it happening. So it's going to be Jota.
I wonder if we'll see Gakpo. I really would.
Yeah, I think Gakpo comes off the bench. Maybe.
Oh, you think off the bench?
Off the bench, yeah. I think well, as much as Diaz, played full 90, like almost full 90 towards the end there, he didn't really have to do much because he didn't have much room to operate in. So I feel like he still got some energy in there. Prediction 4-1 Liverpool.
Damn.
Yeah, 4-1.
Did you ever? You don't have a score prediction. You sidestepped.
I would say 3-0. So the same. Yeah. We win by 3 goals. I don't know what
I love the confidence, and you guys know what that does to me. It scares the shit out of me when you guys are overconfident. I'll go with the Timuchin special on this one, 3-1. But it's kind of like a nervy one, and then we make it 3-1 at the end, so I can sit down the last 2 minutes, kind of a thing. Because I did do a lot of pacing in the City game, but hey, it works. And then, I can't be the only one. I know Serzi definitely is, but do you have certain things where if the game has gone like that, you kind of stick with it? Like if the game is going well, I was pacing in the beginning. Even with the game, it looks comfortable. I'm like, this has what's worked for us. Me pacing. So I'll pace to the point. Okay, here's like, and this is when Angie rolled her eyes and thought I was crazy. We have like the lazy boy couch, and it was not pushed in all the way. It was like a little bit, and I was about to press the button to go all the way, and I was like, no, I don't want to change anything because the game is going good. Am I the only one? Am I the only one this crazy?
No.
Okay, thank God.
No, I have some kits where we've performed well. I'm wearing the same kit to the League Cup final. I wore that kit when we won in 2022. I wore that kit when we won last year. So I'm wearing it again with the same shoes, with the same joggers, with the same cap, everything.
Nice.
Yeah. So
I have to stand for the last 15 minutes of every game. My wife hates it. It's just 75-minute hits, and I gotta stand. Like I don't even think about it anymore. It's just like beep, I'm up. Or like last against Villa, I felt like I was sitting at a part of the couch and the sun's like coming in and like it's kind of blinding half the TV. And I was like, well, if I can't see that corner, they can't see that corner. So I moved seats so that I could see that corner. I was like, maybe they're just like blinded and that they can't see players over there.
I do that. I mean, and it's tricky. Stitch knows a little bit more about how this works. Like he'll be like, okay, it's a pacing day and it'll sit a bit more to the side and stuff. But Leo has no concept still. Where he's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I'm like, dude, just go away. Like I'm pacing. I need my space over here. But it should be interesting. I really think, if we get a win, and I think their game is starting before ours, correct? So
1:30.
So we might already go into it with the morale up, and I think that would be like a huge push too. But we'll be here right before the game kicks off, basically half an hour before, once the lineup comes out as well. We'll see the starting 11. We'll take a look at their starting 11. Like I said, they played this weekend as well, so we're not playing. It's not like we're coming from Champions League and they didn't play midweek or a situation like that. But we'll see. Will you gentlemen be at the pre-match?
No, sir.
I think I will be.
I'm training my successor today. So
training your successor.
Yep.
So, like, how long of a period is that? Like, have you been doing this all along, or that he gets like a disposable?
No, they announced it yesterday. So, unfortunately, they gave him.
So you're basically gonna take him, like, show him a couple of good lunch spots, and that's gonna be it.
Yeah. This is where I cry. Where I park the truck and cry.
Well, have a great Wednesday, everybody. We'll see you guys here for the pre-match. Thank you.